Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, today we're bringing you the two top tablets of 2013. These are definitely going to be the top selling 10-inch tablets. That is the iPad Air versus the Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. Now, these two really are the best of the best for each respective OS. And today we're going to find out which one is better for you. Now, even though I am called the Android guy, I always do this disclaimer. I do give credit when credit is due for better parts in certain categories. So let's check out which one is better in which categories and see which categories matter to you. Now, when it comes to look and feel, both tablets have changed dramatically compared to last year's models. When it comes to the iPad Air, it has left the number route and gone to the Air route. So basically what this means is a lot lighter, thinner, and narrower compared to the iPad 4 of last year, or they called it the iPad with Retina display. But a lot lighter, thinner, narrower. You have very thin bezels as well, so it's really easy to hold both in landscape and portrait. And they're seeming like they want you to hold it more and more in landscape because of how this is held, simply because you kind of touch this a little bit easier, although they do have the technology where it's not supposed to as much, so we don't always get it, but it's just one thing when we kind of have our hands here that it might accidentally touch or so. Really very light, thin, and it has that soft coating from the iPad mini from last year. On this side we have Samsung's new Note style, which has definitely been a huge improvement from the plastic glossiness of last year. So first of all, the thing I love about this is you really do not get fingerprints on this. It's kind of really, you can't have it. It just kind of brushes off. And the leather or whatever the kind of material is, really leather-like material, really feels good. It gives a really good grip and it gives a really premium feel, something that we have not really seen in Samsung tablets beforehand. Very nice design. It feels very light as well. There's ounces difference between this two, although the iPad Air is slightly lighter. When it comes to look and feel, as most of you know, I typically always give it to iOS just because they always have the look and feel down. However, in this one, I am actually going to call it a draw. The reason is because this one looks and feels great, and I've actually had iOS people prefer this one over the iPad Air upon feeling both. But for overall purposes, neither one is a bad look and feel. These are both really very nice look and feels for both devices, so I'm going to call it a draw. Now, when it comes to web browsing, the first thing we take a look at is the screen quality. Both are really, really good. The super clear LCD technology versus the IPS LCD, this is an IPS as well, just different name. With their technology though, it's just a little bit brighter for the most part, a little bit more vibrant in a sense, and for those of you who always ask me, it is on the full brightness on the iPad, because I always get accused of that. But you do have really good screen qualities, 264 pixels per inch here, 299 pixels per inch here. So yes, the Note 10.1 does have a better screen. It's not as noticeable though, really, for most people. It's very good screen quality on both. So right now, let's actually take a look at the response time in web browsing. As both load up the page. These are on the same Wi-Fi, connecting to the same page. One important thing to note, the reason why this is taking longer than most is because this is a very heavy web page. I did this purposely to see how both tablets will process heavy web pages, to see which one really can process it the best. And both are going still. And the iPad just finished right here, and the note did finish and then it didn't. I guess it's refreshing towards the bottom, which the iPad doesn't have displayed right there, but that's interesting. Okay, and now the note's displayed, although it doesn't have, both pages don't have everything displayed, but they both say they're fully loaded. In terms of response, with moving up and down, both are fairly easily. The one thing I do like about Android that I always demonstrate right away is that you can scroll down right to the bottom fairly quickly, whereas iOS you kind of do have to kind of tap a couple times. Now, the reason why you'd want to scroll down to the bottom, well, if you want to go to Contact Us or anything like that, very simple and quick. The other thing is that you do have an advantage of the Note that I've seen is two things. One, you have a mouse for actually a desktop-like experience, and two, you can actually have two browsers open at the same time. So you can actually have a real desktop-like experience by having two web pages simultaneously open at the same time, which you cannot do on the iPad. For those reasons, overall, though both are great web browsing experiences, the Note will obviously have an advantage with the fact of having two web browsers open at the same time. Now, when it comes to sound, one of the first things we want to go over is placement of speakers. On the iPad Air, it is right down here at the bottom. Two sets of speakers, left and right, although it is only on one side of the screen, which is important because you don't really get a true stereo-like experience. On the Note 10.1, you do have a left and right, although depending on how you're holding it, you can cover it up, which is both tablets kind of, when you're on landscape, you seem to cover both speakers up is what I've noticed. This one you cover one speaker up, this one you typically can cover the bottom part of it up, so it depends on how you're hearing it. So for this one, we're going to play the iPad Air first, then the Note, then Air, then the Note.
But all that money don't equal the price of fame. From LA to New York, Seattle to the Bay, West overnight flights to Oahu, getting late. Y'all go down in Vegas, they know where we stay. Last show in Cali, headed down to the Staple. I was a boy with a dream, had my head in the clouds. Now I'm sleeping first class, got a bed in the clouds. Hit my pops to pick me up, and he said he was proud. King shit with a beanie on instead of a crown. Yeah, counting on my blessings. Shout out to the Most High. Started from the bottom, now I'm six high. Cheesies to the fitness, now I'm literally so fly. Motivated by my brokenness, guess that's why they call it coach, right? Yeah. Back when I was broke, I was asking why I'd go through all this trouble, wipe the tears up out of my eye. Connected to my fans like we all up on that Wi-Fi. They say the sky's the limit, I'm just starting and I'm sky high. Fast cars, silly hoes, airplane.
Okay, so overall, this is going to be a tie. Now, I'm not sure what you heard, but basically what we've kind of heard and debated over definitely was that the iPad is definitely going to have the better bass. So if you tend to listen to rap, this is going to be the better sound. If you tend to listen to rock or anything vocals, classic, certain things like that, the highs are much better on here and the lows are much better on here. So it's really kind of like which music you listen to, which is going to sound better. Because of this, I'm calling it a draw. This one is this one's a little bit louder. This one's has a better bass. It really kind of goes back and forth on what kind of music you like. So we'll leave it at a draw. Now, when it comes to watching movies, you can pretty much guess how these generally will go. Simply for the fact that on Android, you have a 16:9 ratio, which shows the screen pretty much in its entirety. Whereas on Apple, you have these big black bars that take up the majority of the space. It's just a huge difference always when you see the screen on here versus when you see the video on here. It just makes so much more of an impression having it a bigger screen size. Now, the other thing is important to note is the difference in brightness, and especially with things like blacks and different colors, you just see a better contrast on the Note. But let's play them and you be the judge.
Then you should get one. I mean, they have smart switch that transfers everything over for you. I don't know if I really learned how to use a phone. You had to learn how to use your phone at one point, didn't you?
And I don't think you can do that again. I just need to do it.
Your other matches is not up.
Easily transfer text, contacts, music, and more with Smart.
Okay, so one thing, definitely just in the whites at the very end, should be able to see a more distinct difference. Where this is white, this is kind of like an off beige. Hopefully the camcorder is getting that, but just in a lot of colors, the reproduction is definitely better on the Samsung in comparison to on the iPad. Not the iPad's bad, but the aspect ratio with the clarity difference, I would say it shows more on video watching than anything else. So for that reason, I would give it to the Note 10.1. It really is just the best movie watching experience on a tablet today. Now when it comes to cameras, they both have a very different layout. With the iPad, it's very, very simple. Front camera, HDR, take the photo or video, video, photo, and square for Instagram. Important to note, they don't have the built-in filters, which I was kind of surprised that wasn't on here. For the Samsung video, photo, modes are different ways of taking different kind of photos. A lot are from the Note series, which are really nice that those were brought on here, including HDR, eraser shot, best faces, beauty shot, and even night mode. You do have, of course, built-in filters on here, which is really nice, and dual camera, as well as auto night detection and voice control, and even fast motion, but not slow motion. So let's see how these photos came out. First of all, with the front camera. Definitely, this is a very bright area, so I'm kind of testing to see how well it does with brightness. But definitely, the Note seemed to get a better skin tone representation when it came to, again, bright lights in my face. In terms of like the scar that I have over here, though, it's much more visible on here than it is on here. So the iPad's detail, I believe, just wasn't as sharp. And you can notice it more on the shirt, just again a little bit more detail right here and compared to here, and just not as washed out. So the front camera is going to be better on here, which makes sense. This is a 1.9, I believe the iPad has a 1.3 if I'm not mistaken, so slightly different. Now, hopefully the camera will get this on how this looks. In terms of what I see, so the camera tends to oversaturate this as well, so hopefully it shows good. But the yellow, both are off. The green, this is correct. The blue, both were off. It's basically in the middle. Same with the yellow, both in the middle. And with the red, the Note is more correct. So in terms of these two, they're going to have a very close color representation, but overall the Note does slightly better. However, when it comes to clarity, there is just really a clear winner. First of all, again, with the color representation, this just gives you a deep color, as where this is, again, a washed out color. Again, we do have a very bright lights in the studio, but this is very, very washed out. Now, if we zoom all the way, though, with both, we can clearly see just a better clarity in terms of how the picture is represented. And again, just not as washed out. This is more gray, whereas this is kind of like a faded gray and white. Now, this is to be expected, however, 8 megapixel versus 5 megapixel, and just in terms of the two representations, you're going to get better photos with the Note 8 if you do need to take photos on the go. Now, when it comes to gaming, you're really talking about the best of the best with these two devices. Now, both are really good when it comes to gaming. However, I can't really give one a better rating system than another. Both are going to play games fairly well. Apple has the advantage of a few select games coming to iOS first at times, And Android has the better part for having things like emulators, so you can play actual gaming systems, and even being able to connect things like a PS3 controller directly to it to actually game. So for gamers, it's your choice. Really, both are going to be great for gaming. When it comes to battery life, both are going to be really good battery lives, and both are easily going to get you over the 7-hour and 8-hour mark on average. However, overall, we would expect the slight advantage to go to the iPad Air. Typically, we've been getting about an hour longer battery life on it. In comparison, it's pretty much the equivalent of last year's model, which was, of course, one of the best batteries out there. So when it comes to battery life, we are getting the same battery life as we did before, which again, both are really good. On this one, on average, when we really kind of use it a good amount, we're going to get about 8 to 10 hours. However, on this one, we'll typically get about 9 to 11 hours. So for battery life, we do give a slight advantage to the iPad Air. Now, when it comes to extras, you can pretty much guess who's going to win this one. The iPad does come standard just as is. You have a lightning connector, you have a headphone port. That is all that you have built in with the iPad. You do, of course, have iWork now built in, but Samsung has always had Polaris Office, which is the equivalent to it, where you can create, edit, share Word, PowerPoint, and Excel documents. Now, where the Note stands out, of course, though, is having a lot of hardware and software extras. Of course, you have the pen feature, which definitely stands out, and a lot of people like it. A lot of people have been trying to create a stylus similar for that on the iPad, but nothing comes close to the S Pen just because of the digital and pressure sensitivity that cannot be matched with a third-party stylus. Not to mention the fact that you also, of course, have a micro SD card to expand storage at any point, 64 gigs more, and an IR blaster for remote control purposes. Other than that, you do of course have the split screen technology, which obviously gives a huge advantage to the Note in terms of software extras. Now, when it comes to price point, we are going for the 16 gig versions of the two tablets. For the iPad Air, we have it starting at $499 for the entry-level model, whereas on the Note 10.1 we have it starting at $549. Now, it is important to note that this is very clean and clear on the 16 gig model. However, the 32 gig model for both devices is $599. However, we always go the best and lowest bang for your buck. So since it is $499 for the iPad Air, it's obviously going to be the better for the price point compared to the 16 gig version of the Note 10.1 2014 edition. However, it depends. If you want 32 gig, you obviously will be spending the same price, but for 16 gig, which is the majority of people, you are going to go for the iPad Air for the price point. Alright, we had lots of ties, so let's tally them up and see who wins. When it comes to look and feel, you're not going to go wrong with either tablet. Both have been completely redesigned for last year's models and did a very good job of it. When it comes to web browsing, the 2014 edition Note is just going to be a bit better for its dual screen web browsing as well as its S Pen feature of a mouse style desktop browsing experience. When it comes to music, pick your poison. Both are great speakers, both are very loud. It just depends on which music you really like better. When it comes to movies, easily the Note 10.1 is going to be just a better off for clarity as well as color reproduction and screen size to screen ratio. It's just going to be a better overall experience when I'm watching movies. It's truly been the best movie watching experience I've ever had on a tablet. When it comes to camera, the Note 10.1 is going to take it. It does have the more megapixels, but also its shooting modes just add to the quality. Even on auto though, it seemed to beat out the iPad in most categories from color reproduction, clarity, and front face camera. When it comes to gaming, both tablets are really going to do very well with games. They're pretty much their top of their top on both respective OSs. Both are going to have really good gamings and gamers will appreciate both devices. When it comes to battery life, the iPad Air is going to edge out the Note 10.1, generally lasting about 1 hour or so more in comparison on average use. When it comes to extras, the Note 10.1 will take it just for having the S Pen, as well as many software features and other hardware features such as remote control and microSD card expansion. When it comes to price point, it is going to go to the iPad Air. It's $50 difference at $549 versus $499 for these 16 gig models. So when we tally it all up, the Note 10.1 does take it overall. Now, whether that means it takes it for you, obviously is up to you. We had a lot of ties and a lot of really good features on both tablets. So figure out which categories are most important to you and go with that tablet. If you did find this helpful, please give a like and thumbs up down below. Thank you for watching. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.